partying.
We should have had a beer first.
Well, Kenji's got a beer, and I just got a little high. So we're on the right track. Nicole, you're just living. You're just a high.
I'm just
lifer.
high on life.
She gets high on like accounting shit. Like nobody gets more excited about accounting shit than Nick Max.
Than me?
NiksTips featuring LiveFlow. Go to liveflow.io/sons. So we've got a LiveFlow user here on the line, Miss Nicole McKenzie of Momentum Accounting, and she's going to tell us what's so great about LiveFlow, what she loves about it. It changed the game for you a little bit.
Yes, I love it. I'll tell you how I'm using LiveFlow and what I like about it. So I'm using it for a handful of different use cases. Automating month-end close, number one use case. So our process is that the bookkeeper or preparer goes in, does the month-end close. So if you have a prepaid schedule, the prepaid schedule ties the balance sheet. You can automate anything in the GL detail. You can automate AP aging, AR aging. So my goal with the workbooks is so that whoever the accounting manager reviewer is can go in there and review a month-end file in 15 minutes because the bookkeeper has done all the work and done their own self-check.
So that's automation with an exclamation mark.
Yes, it's pretty dope.
Dope books.
Dope books. Okay.
Dopebooks.com.
Second use case. I built out a forecast in Google Sheets, and the live data from
No way.
QBO comes in, right? The actuals. So I'm reviewing the accounting and we have to update something. You just literally hit the little button and it refreshes everything. So you can see the numbers change in front of you.
That's true automation.
We finally hacked it and did it. Like, it's so cool.
Wow. You're a programmer.
I'm actually a paying user, so I actually pay LiveFlow to use the product.
Yeah. It's the truth in advertising and the truth in product feedback. Go to liveflow.io/sons. Sons of CPA's bonus episode where Nix, Scott, and Kenji share a small but useful piece of practical advice as it relates to running their professional accounting firms. This episode is brought to you by the letter P. Partying was the topic that Kenji responded with when I asked his help for picking the P today. And he picked the P out of that one. He said passion, partying, and what was the others?
I gave you a few of them, but I said pain, pleasure, passion, and partying. Now, maybe I had something else in there.
And then Scott sent those to me, and I said, this is the wrong podcast. That sounds like a sex podcast.
Yeah, that's the other podcast where we do S words, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we've got a lot of those going on. So we're sticking with the P's. We're not pivoting. I was gonna do pivoting today because then I was gonna pivot away from the P's so we can dig into a better pot of words. But you know what? The P's pot is plentiful.
I didn't know you were ready to step away from the P's. I still thought we had a plethora of P's left.
We have a plethora of P's. We'll never stop from the P's. I don't know what I was thinking today. It was a momentary lapse of judgment. And I thought about it, and partying is great, but we can relate it to, like you said, Nicole, we're going to relate it to accounting conferences. All right. So the other letters that we are going to do is A and C one day. So we can do CPA. So we have the P's. We got plenty of P content. We'll get some C's in there. We'll get a bunch of C's, and then we'll get a bunch of A's, and we'll put them all together as a CPA podcast.
I feel like this is the nerdiest version of like Sesame Street or something. Like the letter A, the letter C. Yeah.
I mean, at least it's not like Sesame Street on drugs or anything like that.
Yes,
you know, like
it is.
the back alley Sesame Street
Go back and listen to yourself on previous podcasts.
This is boardroom Sesame Street, not back alley. All right. This is accounting boardrooms. We're going to talk about, first we'll put in context what partying means. I think these NiksTips Plus are just a big party. We're just kind of having fun, but we can focus. It's just much more for me to edit when we have too much fun. So let's reel it in. We'll talk about accounting conferences, and then we'll pivot to parties. So accounting conferences, Nicole, you said that's a hot topic, and I think it is. Ryan Lazanis just asked everybody on Twitter and everybody on LinkedIn what conferences they're going to, or what conferences they're going to this year.
For that, Heather Smith posted on the Zero Mastermind Facebook group and asked those of you that do not go to accounting conferences, why do you not go? And like 75 people commented on it. So there's a lot of people that are conference haters. But I think we like going to conferences because we don't really like to.
What are we?
We're the most.
I just want an excuse to like see you guys and travel somewhere cool.
We are the most biased toward. Yeah, we are the most biased toward conferences. This is not a place where we're debating the merits or either side of this. This is going to be the most like, I don't know if it's pro-left, right-wing, like very skewed of like go to conferences. Am I right? I mean, we're not. That's all we're here for.
Yeah. So this kind of it started, we've talked about this a few times on this podcast, but for anybody tuning in for the first time around, we started this in Nashville when there were no accounting conferences during COVID. And we did the unconference. We just kind of a lot of us that would see each other at Xero events or other conferences, we all kind of got together and we realized the same thing Amanda realized when she started Accounting Salon was the best part of conferences is the people and the parties afterwards, right? The cocktail parties and the partying that's done afterwards. That's where the real learning gets done. At least if you surround yourself with the right people. You always can get more out of people that can stretch you a little bit and that you can grow from in a lot of different ways. So at least that's my perspective. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, so much so that
I agree. I'm curious though. I didn't see Heather Smith's Facebook post, and I love Heather. Heather's spoken. We have our own. I love conferences so much. We have our firm has our own conference. You guys at Paget do too, and Heather's spoken at ours. But what would of the 75 like, Nicole? Like, what's the theme? Like, why do people say that they aren't into conferences? I'm curious.
A lot of people say the cost. So between the conference fee, the hotel, the flight, and spending all that time, they don't feel like they get the ROI on it. And then also they feel like it's too salesy. So they're going there and they're signing up and all the vendors are emailing them after. And that's not very valuable content.
Oh, it's the post emails. Yes, actually, that's
legitimate.
Those are
legitimate. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then some people say that because some people mention networking is the best part, which I would agree with that. And then some people said they're introverts. A lot of people said that they're introverts, so that they don't like to do the networking part, which would be not applicable to us.
But aren't you an introvert?
Me?
I thought I've listened. Yes, but I've heard you talk about either in some settings you have been an introvert, but other cases you're not.
She's
Probably
not
when you start partying.
No. I like to be around
say
people.
That.
I'm an extrovert for sure. I always need to be around people.
Okay. We're all extroverts on here. Like, if we're going to define that. So we've gone to conferences after this Nashville. What I'm kind of leading into is I went to Engage without actually going to Engage. And I don't know how much I should really talk about that, but that was just because I already had a community of people that I knew were going to be there. So if you have a lot of peers outside within the social networks, then you don't necessarily need to go to the conference to go meet people that you've been interacting with on Twitter or on LinkedIn or wherever else. If you know they're all going to be there, you can just show up and then see where everybody's at that night. I mean, totally. To a large degree, that's kind of what we did at Engage, right, Kenji?
It's totally what we did. But I want to say a quick thing about how you did that. Is for those who weren't there and didn't see this last year with Scott, you got your name badge and you wore, with the little, what is it, the little lanyard? Yeah. And your badge clipped on the end of the lanyard. And Scott took his room key and clipped to the end of his lanyard and walked in and out.
A badge.
It didn't have a badge, but like would walk in and out. People wouldn't scan it but if you looked at it closely, it was just his hotel room key. It was not.
Jeez, I hope the event planners are not listening to this. Sorry, AICPA. Well, at least I didn't share somebody else's. That's what a lot of people also do. They just.
But I guess they should get some props for like they were one of the very first ones who actually the first one I can remember where they put a conference out there, and so a lot of us went. And I think to your point, or to the point Nicole made in Heather Smith's Facebook group, it's expensive. Engage is one of the more expensive ones, and it's costly. And so if you found a way to kind of get there because it was an interesting event with good people, but we're like, hey, I'm not quite sure if the ROI is going to be there. At least you went. It attracted you to it. But
yeah, I would say AICPA.
You were smart and found a way to hack the conference.
I would say that I'm not paying for AICPA Engage. I think it's way too expensive for the value. And I think it's super cost prohibitive when you have it in Vegas, that expensive. I mean, I love Vegas, so I'm going to go to Vegas. But the one thing I love about XeroCon and QB Connect is that you can afford to bring your team, and I love being able to afford to bring my team because I think it's really cool for them to be able to see that. So when you're charging $1,500, $2,000 for the conference, people are not going to bring their team. So it just changes the dynamic, right? Because you typically are just seeing only partners, only senior level people there. You're not getting a diverse mix of people, so the parties aren't quite as fun.
Well, isn't that because it's heavily sponsored? Like, it's an app that hopefully everybody that shows up there is actually paying them. So we've already paid for this production beforehand, right?
But let's be honest, do you guys go to conferences to learn?
I don't know if I used
for the
to.
Sessions?
I mean, that's a good question, though. That poses a good question as well. And it's also, do we go there because we want to support the app or because I really just went because of the parties. That's why I went every time.
When did you understand or know that there were parties? Because I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't going into
this.
So I think it was my reps that would tell us to show up, and they would say, we're going to take you out to eat. And then they say, we're going to have all these night parties and the content's great too. So it's like, that was a bonus on top. There was leading with the parties and the hanging out and everything. So I heard all of the stories, and I think that you guys had gone to a few XeroCons before I even went.
Yeah, we did before you. I mean, I was my first one was I went because I guess kind of like the point Nicole was making. It's like CPE. Have I ever really learned much through CPE? No, I do it because I had to do it.
But you can on Earmark CPE.
You can, but Blake's done it in a way that's where it's way more relevant and interesting. But back then, that's what you had to do is go bang out a few conferences to get some CPE, but you weren't paying attention. So that's what I did. I showed up at XeroCon Denver because I've got family out in Colorado. I'm like, oh, cool. I guess I'll go bang out some CPE. And I go in there, and within the first couple hours, I instantly am at a bar, hanging out with Shelly Lingor, meeting Will Lopez, hanging out with, all the Jamies from Hub Doc. And I was like, actually, this isn't so bad. So I didn't know. I didn't know that, until I just got there. And again, the three of us, and this is probably harder for someone who's truly an introvert. If you're an extrovert, you're like, all right, well, I'm going to get somewhere where there's something interesting. And I think that was the oh wait, there are parties here. and from then on out, then I was like, okay, I'm kind of down with this.
Well, then you started throwing the parties. By the time it got to XeroCon Atlanta, you guys were hosting the party. I mean, one of the first parties I went to was the one Amanda was hosting. She hosted a bar crawl, and that was
same.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones I went to.
Were you the one at XeroCon Austin? Yeah, that's the first. That was my first conference.
That was me too.
And then I met Will, the ultimate partier.
That's right.
So I was like, okay, this is fun. Conferences are cool.
With Will. Oh yeah, we were there because Amanda hosted that. Then when it came to Atlanta after Austin, we're replicating what Amanda did, but we're going to do it every night. And then we did even that a little bit like just last year at Engage. We hosted parties up in our room and invited people up, became a little bit of a spot. So yeah, parties and conferences have definitely gone together.
The difference between a sponsored party and a party is your email box afterwards. If you go to these sponsored parties, there's like, sometimes there's 5 different apps going in on one party, and it might be great, but then be prepared to get a drip in your box for the next 7 months.
The drip, that's a waterfall.
So, okay, word of advice on that. So when you sign up for the conference, they take your email. What you need to do is you need to create a burner email.
Create the burner email that you can confirm still. You still got to confirm it, right?
Yes. So you create that email, and that's linked to your badge. So you use the QR code, and it all goes back to that email. So you have to choose your email. Because I'm too nice to say no. It's like everyone wants to get your like they have a certain amount of scans. I think they have to get the salespeople.
They do.
So I'm always
They're tricky. They are tricky.
Too nice to say no.
They befriend you. They get to be your friend first before they get you in bed. And
that's awesome.
They befriend you before they get you in bed. They get you nice and drunk, and they liquor you up, and then they go to town with that email box. Woo-hoo-hoo. Don't get that box too messy, man. I'm trying to keep my email box clean.
Oh boy. Oh Scott.
No, I do love the app vendor hall. Like I will go there and walk through, and if there's anyone I haven't heard of, I'll go talk to them. I always do that. I always find good apps.
Yeah, I enjoy the same thing. I enjoy going to...
It's not about them reaching out to you. So this is my opinion on the email box and everything else. I think we are old enough and smart enough to make our own decisions and to decide when we want to work with somebody than to have them reaching down our throat to sell us on something that we don't want to be sold to anymore. I don't. I would much prefer, and I'm in advertising now. This is my second job. Third job if you count the podcast. I'm doing advertising, and what I'm telling sponsors and what I'm telling apps is we hear about something, we talk about it to our peers, and we do our own research, and then we turn around and make our own decisions. I mean, Kenji, how do you feel about being sold to?
You can, when it's being done poorly, which is most of the time, you can smell it a mile away. It's just like you're being sold to, and your brain just turns off. And I see what's happening here. Like, right? And to your point, Scott, you're in advertising. We were early firm doing outbound cold calling and sales for bringing in guys. So trust me, we know what it looks like.
That's the Paget way.
We know what it looks like.
Paget's marketing methods are all door-to-door stuff.
I mean, it's old school, like, right? And so you get a lot of no's, but when you're on the other side of it, I think especially in the app ecosystem, we are. If you're a firm that is at all going to thrive and even survive, you've got to be working with different apps. And so there's already an inherent benefit to getting to know, like Nicole said, walking out there and walking around and going, okay, they may scan my badge, but I'm going to walk around and see who's here at the conference. I want to understand this technology, right? Because you're trying to figure out who you want to work with. And so I don't think they need to press so hard. They don't need to push so hard. In fact, I love it when I get a chance just to kind of meet and hang out and build a relationship with someone working there. That's all we're looking for. I mean, I get it. Sometimes
that's the biggest thing.
A sales team is being pushed hard to sometimes say, I need you guys to come back with this many leads or this many scans of badges. I've worked conference booths before, and I've seen how it's worked. It's awful. But if a head of sales would just understand it, like, just go build some relationships. Like, we want to hang out. And tons of the parties we had, some of the great nights and evenings we've had have totally been with people who are selling to us, and they're not doing it in a cheesy way. It's like, oh, cool. I would like to work with this person. I mean, some of our best friends who are firm owners are now selling to us. Are now
doing this.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, Will is at Gusto, Josh is at Practice Ignition.
Totally get it. That's fine. But
Twyla's at Fresh Books.
No, I think that's a good point, Kenji, because so the people that are selling to us really, they need to be integrated in what we're doing after the conference, right? It doesn't end at the conference. They're coming to the parties with us. And if we just think about all the people we've met at conferences, we say partying when we are partying, but we're also networking. Right. Like, I think we all have a story.
The only reason we say partying is because it starts with the letter P. Let's be real.
So at AICPA Engage, so you guys know for a while, for like a year, I was trying to build a dashboard app with my brother. And we're getting to the point where it's realizing that trying to fund building an app by yourself and trying to run a business wasn't like really realistic. So I was at Topgolf at AICP Engage at one of the after parties, and I sat down next to Justin Hatch from Reach Reporting, And I was like, oh, what does reach reporting do? Never heard of it. And everything he was telling me was exactly what Michael and I were trying to build. So ended up introducing him to Michael. Michael now works for reach reporting. Then we go through this people advisory thing with Will, who I met at another conference, who works for Gusto. And I was like, hey, this people advisory thing would be like really cool for reach reporting. So I introduced Will and Justin, and now reach reporting is in their like beta of having a Gusto integration. So, and all of that was just people I've met. So I'm sure you guys all have stories like we all met in the accounting community. So I think there's just like, you never know who you're going to sit down next to.
Totally.
I mean, Kenji, you just did an acquisition. Like, how did you get to know the Sharps?
Yeah. Through being out in the community, right? And through partying with Patty and Scott probably at some point. No, but that's the point. I think there's a lot of, I think as you think about conferences, if you go into it just thinking, and like I did, I'll be guilty here, going like, oh, what am I supposed to learn here? Like, I'm going to go and learn something for this dollar amount. If like that's the calculus that you're doing for ROI, you're missing some components of the R, of the return. And I think that I always have believed that the really good things around conferences, they happen in the margins. They happen off of the schedule. So when you're looking at a schedule, you're like, oh, what speakers interest me? I mean, I'd be more interested in like, all right, who are some of the sponsors? Which partners are going to be there? Certainly look at like if there's an interesting speakers there, that's probably a good sign of like, oh, there'll be some interesting people to talk to, but like, you're not going to talk to them in a session. You can't do that. So seek them out afterwards. Talk to them beforehand. Like that's the good stuff, is the stuff that's off again, the schedule, that people need to make sure that don't just look at it like, all right, how many sessions look interesting to me? Because there's some really good things that happen outside of on the margins.
Yeah. Another thing too is meeting potential people you're going to collaborate with, or employees too. One of my all-star employees saw me speak on a panel at a Xero event and reached out to me. So, I mean, there's totally like so many opportunities that you may not see the ROI for 1, 2, 3 years down the road, but because you made a relationship and then all of a sudden, maybe 10 years later, you want to sell your practice, right, and you sell it to somebody that you met at an accounting conference.
Did any of you all think that you'd ever end up like actually on a panel or up front speaking at a conference? Like we've all done that now. That's still like so weird to me, right? It's like I never.
No, I have no business being there either. I don't know why.
That's another area.
Let's talk about panels. It's another P word. I knew panels would eventually make its own appearance on this episode. So Accounting Web. It's the Accounting Web Summit, and they're doing it very differently. And I don't know if this is our perspective because we're part of the presentation. We're all, well, I guess panelist versus moderator, right?
Same thing.
Technically, two of us are moderators and one of us is a panelist. Like, are they trying to do something different where it is the community putting on the production? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people talking down to us. It's a younger group of people speaking and on panels. So this is something new. I think this is merging what people want out of a conference. And now it's like a cool conversations being had where everybody else can be a fly on the wall. It's like live podcasts almost, some of these panels, it seems like. Right?
I will say that I don't know. I have no idea if that's a new trend, if they were specific in doing that. I'm excited they are, because if I have to go watch something, I prefer a panel. I always have preferred a panel.
Oh, yeah.
We've had, in fact, one of the most popular ones for our own conference.
It's a asynchronous conversation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but at our own...
It's more peer-to-peer.
Totally.
Right?
At our own conference, like AcuityCon that we do, we've had the Cloud Accounting Podcast did their very first live ever like broadcast from our conference. And it was cool because we got to watch Blake and David get up there, and like for us,
pioneers,
a bunch of accounting nerds were like, this is awesome. These guys we listen to all the time. So they were there and they got to do it in front of us. And it felt like you feel like you're more part of the conversation. I remember also at one of the XeroCons, I can't remember which one, but Kerry Goman, who was the president here in the US for a while, did a panel with Steve Vamos, right? The CEO, the newest CEO, and they just did like a panel discussion.
I think that was Atlanta. It
was super back and forth. It may have been Atlanta. And I remember
I read the book that he recommended on that panel.
And I just was like, they're having a conversation. I think that's like a good podcast. P word. You guys have already covered that, but it's been awesome. But like a good podcast, I think you feel a little bit like you're part of the conversation. So I don't know if that's what they're going for at Accounting Web.
Does anybody have, what's the wildest conference story that you can share without naming names?
So, do we really have to go wild stories without naming names? That's stupid. Like we only can name names.
Yeah. As long as it's not my name, you can name
or mine. You guys signed.
I mean, I wouldn't say anything to hurt anybody's feelings or shame them. I would talk about stupid shit that I've done. Like I've done some very crazy, stupid shit at the pageant conferences, and it's a whole bunch of old people that I'm. No, not all of them are that old. Most of my friends. And the people that would hang out in my room were all like the right generation, like people that y'all would like to hang out with too. You would like a lot of these pageant offices. So we would always go to my room. I'd open up my room up to everybody, and we'd buy a bunch of liquor. And in the hotel, there was like rooms blocked off. So it was fun, man. I blacked out one time though. That was not good. Not good. That's my story.
That's
though.
Yours.
So
okay.
I can share all names of the people there. They didn't do anything stupid. I did. So
I'll incriminate this person because we've spoken about this publicly at least, and this is only one of mine. I've got a few just because. Anyway, but probably XeroCon Atlanta. Nicole was somewhat involved with this, but we just went. When you have a conference in your hometown, it just went to another level. Like it went so another level for me, and I can. Be careful. I tell people, be careful when hanging with me because I will keep going and going and going. And I just did. And I about killed myself. And one of the last nights there, we went out hardcore. Mac remembers this one. We went out hardcore. And next morning, Will Lopez, who was with us, was on a panel with me, just the two of us. And I'll just say, I don't know that we have ever been in like worse shape to get up and give a panel, and we somehow got through it. I remember we had to sit on these stools in this big room, and Nicole Dunn, who's from Zero, was moderating. Thank God for Nicole Dunn. Will and I got through it. If anyone had any idea how we got through it and how we were feeling in that moment, it was unbelievable.
Are you proud of this story, or are you saying it because you made a mistake?
Oh, we totally made a mistake. We totally made a mistake. We went out so hard, and we got up there, and apparently I'm not sure either of us remember what we said, but luckily the good folks at Zero do make you practice and practice and practice so many times that we were a little bit on autopilot. But I would just say that we were not in great shape that morning. And
you probably didn't feel good, but I'm sure the content was still good for the audience, right?
I think we went to bed, probably at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Ooh,
and your conference was at 8.
It was something like it was something really dumb. That, like we tried to pretend like we were still back in college, and
I tend to go.
Yeah, it was rough.
I usually go to the first day of the conference, and then the second day it's like later and later, and then the last day I just don't go because it's whatever happened the night before.
All right, Mac, what do you got? We've already bared our souls.
Oh, that was a story that I was going to tell. I won't incriminate Will.
You just did.
So Nicole attests to that story because she was there.
I'm sure. Yeah. God. Okay. Vegas was really fun.
Vegas was super fun.
I will say that. What was that? The club we went to that was at the pool. I forget the name of it. That was.
The one. Yeah, that was a great one.
Shit, the Omnia
when Will
too.
Will wanted to buy a table every night. Like, Will, we don't even spend $4,000 on a table.
He spent a lot at the Omnia too. Like, shout out to Gusto. Times. We hung out with all the Gusto people at Omnia, man. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Okay, here's the moral of the story. If you're an app partner and you're listening, accountants love when you throw parties and you get us bottle service, and then we will always be
loyal as hell.
Oh, yeah. I've spoken about this before too, but people underestimate accountants and their ability to get after it. I'm not kidding. Like, people just always go, "Oh, accountants are these boring kind of." You realize
isn't that what makes the craziest partiers, like the people that are buttoned up, and then when they finally let their hair down?
It's the work hard, play hard crew. Like, it just defines accountants. Like, we're busting it, working hard. But like, you got to have an outlet.
I reverse engineered that shit, man. I was partying like crazy before I did accounting.
Before you were working?
Yeah, now we're just trying to lightweight, man.
Now we're just trying to keep playing and none of the working. But
I party the least of anybody. I'm always the one who's going to bed early now. Like, y'all are still out partying.
No, you go to bed and then you come back 2 hours later and we're still up. We're like, Scott, I thought you left for the night, and then you come back.
You're good at ghosting, dude.
You do that every time.
All the time. Here's something.
I try to go to bed early and then I can't fall asleep, and then I'm just like, fuck, I'm not even going to try and fall asleep. So
this is the party podcast. I'll tell people out there, listeners out there, if you want to find the party, look for the three of us. I'm not kidding. This is
that's true. That is true. We're very welcoming, and we're very we will accept
you can
anybody.
Totally ride with us. I want to warn you.
We're not judgmental. We're all good people. Are we selling our party services?
Yes. But I'm also giving a disclaimer. If you come with this crew right here, I'm just saying, anything can happen. It gets wild. You better just buckle up and prepare. Everybody's invited.
It'll be fun.
You can't be judgmental. That's the number one rule.
You can't be.
Yeah.
But
don't
that's
judge.
like it is pretty intimidating going to a conference if you don't know anyone.
It is, yeah.
So I think you find your people, and then it's easy. But it's just that first conference that you go to, you don't know anyone. So yeah,
just go hang out. Like maybe you're not a huge partier, but like go out a little bit, hang out with folks. I mean, you'll find, like, so again, my business partner Matthew and I are a great example of this. He loves to kind of go out too. But he's like, hey, I want to go out to dinner. I want to go have some conversations with people, and then he's going to bounce pretty early, right? And he's fine. That's totally cool. Like he does that, and then there's some of us. I'm looking at two of you, and I say us, like that. It's just getting ramped up after dinner, and it just gets silly. And that's fine too. There's all different flavors of that. You don't have to be kind of idiots. Like,
well, there's many flavors of people too. So try to find your people. Like, definitely connect with the people that you interact with on the socials and everything. I think that most accountants like Twitter, but maybe that's because it's the only place I'm at. But I did a little survey recently, just on Twitter, asking where everybody's at. Are you on LinkedIn too? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? And I think a lot of people, the consensus is Facebook is for the groups, and there's certain professional type things that you can be in little bubbles in the Facebook area, in the Facebook network. LinkedIn is where people can really let their hair down and kind of hang out, but talk still intelligently and have deeper conversations sometimes too. And it's more accessible. And then Instagram was for the narcissists, is what Nicole Davis said, I think. And then
I like me some Insta more than Twitter. Give me the pretty pictures. That's all I want.
IG, yeah. Well,
can I ask one last question on parties?
Well, I was going to say that I don't even know where I was trailing off to now.
That's why I'm trying to bring things back.
Focus.
I'm trying to bring things back a little bit.
Pull us back in. So
I always like to land somewhere. I always like to land somewhere.
Find your people that you can run into at the conference, and then it spirals out upwards from there. So at least connect with a buddy. Have a conference buddy. If you're the only person going that try to find befriend somebody, and then it's a gateway drug. Friends are gateway drugs to other friends.
I'll say this too. If you don't know the three of us or any one of us, and you're looking for that gateway drug, Scott, why did you use that? Reach out to any one of the three of us and ask, hey, where are you going? Can I come hang? I promise you, every one of the three of us would be like, sure, come on, here's what's going on tonight. I mean, seriously, if you're even nervous about that, I would totally, that'd be fun. But I'm going to ask one last question, if that's cool.
Yeah, pivot.
I'm not even pivoting. I'm staying on point. Maybe like that. What's the best party at an accounting conference you've been to? Is that a good?
Why don't we say the worst?
The worst?
We just all shared stories. We shared fun stories. Now let's tell people what they should look to not do. Right. So give us your worst conference you've been to. Worst conference you've been to. I'm being a pessimist right now because you're too optimistic. We're talking all roses and cherries. Let's say the worst conference you've been to and why. Nicole.
I'm trying to remember any of them. I mean, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but AICPA Engage, the conference itself was not good.
The conference itself, right?
The parties were good because it was in Las Vegas. I'm still going this year, but I'm not going to the conference.
Yeah. You don't have to throw them under the bus. They're pretty big. They can handle it. They can take one on the chin.
I think
people still go.
And it's more of a different. I'm a CPA, but I don't do any technical work. I'm not doing audit or tax, so none of the topics really interested me. So, and then the app vendor hall I thought was pretty limited, and it was really expensive. So I feel like I didn't get the value for my money on
there
that
you
one.
go. Yeah.
Hey, Mac.
I did.
Hey,
'cause I
Mac.
didn't pay anything.
Mac, I've got a little secret for you. Ready? You know what the best type of CPA to be is? Inactive. I got it.
Say
I've
that.
been
Our
there.
listeners are probably active. Like Ackerman actually does a lot of tax returns. He needs to keep his CPA.
But she just said she's not going to do audit or tax. So what's the point?
I did go inactive for a while, and then I brought it back.
Oh yeah, and
ouch.
Nicole. Yeah. That's
Give it up. You know, I worked really hard for that. Those 3 little
No,
letters.
Yeah, well,
We
you can
all
get your
did except for
CPE
Scott.
now. You can get your CPE on Earmark CPE. Another plug.
Yeah.
That's true. You can get it there.
Sign up for Earmark, and you'll get CPE for these episodes.
Okay. Do we want to talk about any conferences coming up that will be in?
Well, I want to share my worst conference.
Okay.
Actually, I don't.
Say it.
No, because it's like the only thing that Xero couldn't control was the weather, and it snowed in Austin, and so that's why it was the worst conference. It was. Everybody says Blanket Con, and there are some good memories from there, but it was like outdoors and raining or snowing. I can't say
You're
that.
like
What?
you're like the people on Yelp that give a place 1 star because it was too expensive.
I didn't give it bad reviews because Xero did a bang up job.
Like, oh, I'm sorry it snowed in May or June or whatever month
I know,
that
it was
when
so
it
crazy
hasn't
in Texas. It
a
never,
century, and all of a sudden it snows, and Scott's like, this is the worst conference I've ever been to.
I enjoyed the conference. I'm saying that there are things that happen
that conference.
that you can't plan.
I loved
though.
it. That was my first
It's
Xero
so
Con.
much
It
fun.
was
Plan that
great.
shit though. It was fucking cold, man. I don't like
And the
cold.
live music, Xero has had some epic rap parties.
They've had some great-
WRAP.
Yeah.
Not
That's a
R.I.P.
great
I want to throw a rap party. Can we
Yeah,
throw a
rap
rap
parties.
party at the XeroCon, the next XeroCon?
You should be hired as someone to rap. Oh, like great, you'd be like great
that would
kite,
be
but then you'll
cool.
rap at the rap
Yeah,
party.
Greg can do the comedy. I can do the rap, and we can be little Dicky of accountants, right? He does comedy and he does raps.
Yes.
Of accountants.
But I think so. XeroCon Atlanta was also awesome. I think they should go to less expensive places because when they went to San Diego, the rap party was just super lame because I think they spent all their money on the venue.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is go somewhere super cheap and go all out on the party.
Well,
rather
if
than
they could have gone to a better climate,
would be nice.
that XeroCon would have been the fucking tits. I would have loved it. Like, that would have been the best. But the fucking weather, man, you can't control the weather, and the weather will ruin your mood. It'll ruin the day. It could. It has the power to. So does music, too.
Yeah.
Music makes your day better. I think music, and this is a preview for anybody still listening. The new and
still
upcoming
listening
music
to this?
series that we're going to start recording.
Don't give it away.
Our radio show
Don't
is
give it away,
to
Scott.
be named. To be named.
Secret-
The radio
that's a
show is what it's
secret
called.
show, Scott. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Well, they'll hear it. They'll hear it because I won't stop talking about it. I'll be so proud of it. By the time we finally record an episode, it'll be good as hell. It'll be like an album.
There is an episode recorded.
First episode.
Some people
there
are-
is an episode recorded. Yeah. So, all right. Back to the partners. Kenji, what was your back to the partners? The 3 partners. This is what my kids used to say. They used to play with their friends and they said the 3 partners, and they would do little YouTube videos of themselves like doing stuff, and they call themselves the 3 partners. It was like kids and their friends. So back to the partying episode. I'm meandering now. Kenji, what was your worst conference? Do you have one?
Of course. And
Yes.
you all are so spoiled. You both are spoiled rotten from like good conferences you've been to. If you have not been to the LA accounting conference, reach out to Blake on this one. He was there with me, Matthew. That thing was ridiculous. Like in the worst way. It was the sessions. I was a speaker there, which is why I was out in LA. I'm like, sweet, LA, that sounds awesome. Went out there. When you spoke, guess where you spoke from? Oh, right next to your session was in the middle of all the vendors. They only had one area. So you're speaking
wow.
while people are walking around meeting vendors. It was so bootleg. It was
That's like
nothing.
doing it.
I mean, there was no parties. There was nothing. Like we went out with Blake. We hung out with Blake. It was weird, and it went for a different demographic. It was a free conference, free. So guess
there you go.
Guess who rolls up in a free conference? Everybody looking for some like random booth swag. So you're sitting there trying to like talk about, well, why?
Oh,
why am I super
I love
into
the booth swag?
Oh, dude,
I love the booth
this
swag.
It's just awful.
My suitcase is full of booth swag after every conference.
Well, you would have loved this because you wouldn't have had to pay to get in. It's like no cover charge. People handing out just random stuff out of booths. And while you're trying to present your session, you're trying to give your session, people are just literally walking through your session. Like they didn't even pay for a separate area for
my whole house.
It was the most broke, like jacked
accounting app T-shirts.
I don't think they do those anymore, but it was not good. Not good.
Oh, booth swag. Don't make fun of the booth swaggers. I'm a booth swagger.
I just looked up boothswag.com and it's not taken, so.
Let's do it. Booth swag. How many times have I repeated that word?
Booth swag.
So David Leary I think he's a little website crazy. He's got accountingconferences.com, right?
Go to that. That's a great one.
He's got quite a few websites. So check out accountingconferences.com to see the list of upcoming accounting conferences.
Hey, David.
At davidleary.com too.
Give a shout out to, hey, David, do me a favor. Put AcuityCon. Our conference. Put it on there. Reach out, put that on
and put the pageant one on there too, man.
But AcuityCon isn't for the public.
Not yet. Right? It's not.
Yeah.
Not yet. It's gonna be public.
That's why I said it. Maybe.
What?
Maybe.
That means it is. That means we're gonna be there, Nicole.
There's some plans
we're gonna be
for
at the
it.
next
I'm just
AcuityCon.
saying. It's only with.
I think I'm gonna MC, but like MC the next AcuityCon. If you need an MC, I'm your man.
Scott.
I'm putting my sign up on the flag here. Pioneers of the shit. Kenji's gonna say, I'm the first rap conference.
You better bring it if you're gonna try to bring rap to Atlanta. If you're gonna try to bring rap to Atlanta,
on my portfolio. Another P word. I'll work on my portfolio and I'll have a 4 songs that I can perform by the time we have AcuityCon. I will have 4, maybe 3, but I have 1.
I'm expecting a debut of the Scott Scarino rap.
The S3X, the Scott Scarino show.
You're giving up too
much. That's the third S. S3X. My DJ name.
Scott,
DJ
you're giving away
Sex. DJ S3X. But the 3 is a backwards E, so it's like DJ Sex.
Okay. Let's
off the rails.
10.
Thank you, listeners, for making it this far. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts because 60% of you are listening on Apple Podcasts. So go on there and write something, and I promise you I will read it. Or if you want Nicole to read it, she will. Or if you want Kenji to read it, he'll come on. Another plus.
Make sure to add that in the comment, who you want to read it.
Another +1. Yeah, definitely put in the comment who you want to read this out loud.
And you can say any single thing you want. We will say it
as long as you leave a 5-star review.
Okay.
If you leave a 5-star, then we will read every word of it. If you leave a 4-star, we'll leave 1 word off. If you leave a 3-star, we'll leave 2 words. No, I'm not even going that deep. Please don't leave a 3-star. That sucks. At least give us a 5-star at the very least. Thank you, listeners. We love you. Tap 5 stars if you're on Spotify. Peace out.
Wow, what a great episode. And wouldn't it be great if you could earn CPE credit for that? Now you can. Visit earmarkcpe.com to sign up for free and earn free CPE credit for listening to this show. That's earmarkcpe.com.
Sitting here listening to Blake and them today, and I'm like, all of a sudden, we've got a voicemail. Oh, it's Nicole McKenzie. I'm like, Jesus, what a nerd. Oh my God. She loves it.
That was a shameless plug. I was promoting Sons of CPAs.
You did a good job. They were very excited about
Shout out Sons of CPAs.
Audio
twice
equipment
on that.
and it was good. But I was laughing in the car. I'm like, fucking A, you kidding me?
Thanks, Nicole.
Oh,
you loved it.
I love it. I did love it.